The playoffs are here, baby, and we're diving deep. Minnesota Wild, Dallas Stars, it's going to be juicy.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, my fantasy fanatics? Happy NHL playoffs here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip. We're showing love to the everydayers who make us their first listen every single day, putting us as the number one sports podcast network out there here on the Locked On Sports Podcast Network. Steele, today's show, we're wrapping up the predictions, previews, X Factors, best bets. I know you're fired up for the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars, and so am I. We're going to dive deep. But we're starting with the Mammoth and the Golden Knights because we talk a lot about the Utah Mammoth as a fantasy gold mine. I think that's true, but is their time not yet here in the postseason?
Look, this is an exciting time for a lot of Utah Mammoth fans and obviously their players. And when I look at this team, obviously going up against an organization that has been here pretty much every single year since their inaugural season, 8 years ago now? Utah Mammoth, they moved from Arizona, relocation, trying to establish themselves as a legit contending team. They make the playoffs for the first time. They don't have the experience, but I am backing them anyway. And that's, again, alluding to my prediction in this series. I'm very excited for this one. I look at the Vegas Golden Knights, and we've said it over the last few months that they are absolutely fugazis. They're absolute frauds out there. Goaltending is a liability right now. On the back end, they're actually not as good as you would expect them to be when they've been one of the top defensive teams in the league over the last number of seasons now. And that just hasn't been the case with, once again, my big factor in it all is not having Alex Pietrangelo in there. So I think that's going to be a factor on the back end. Obviously, in the top 6 forward group, when you get to Stone, Marner, Eichel, Dorofeyev, Barbashev, all those guys, the offensive ability, we know they have it. This season, though, I don't quite think they can get it done. So when you look at the regular season series, the Utah Mammoth actually took it 2-1 in the regular season. Mm-hmm. But then you got to look at special teams as well. Vegas Golden Knights have the 6th best power play and the 7th best penalty kill compared to the Utah Mammoth, where they are ranked 18th on the power play and 19th on the penalty kill. So special teams is going to be a factor here in favor of Vegas. And I think the Utah Mammoth are going to have a lot to handle, obviously. But this is a team that has a run and gun style that can score in flurries. They have a lot of talent. They bolstered up their blue line, adding Mackenzie Weegar. You got Mikhail Sergachev back there. We have guys in Sean Durzi and John Marino who we really like as well. I think this is going to be a really good series and exciting once again with Utah having their first postseason berth.
Interestingly enough, you touched on the goaltending there. I think you would have gotten a ton of value out of a guy like Karel Vejmelka this season. A really good year for the Mammoth. I know he was up there at the top of the table in terms of wins this year overall. However, headed into the postseason, Steele, over the previous month, he has a save percentage just under 900. And then you look at the other side of the coin in Carter Hart, over that same span, a save percentage of 932. Carter Hart's actually been good, really good down the stretch. Torts coming in, we all shook our heads. That didn't make sense. Maybe it still doesn't make sense if they get bounced by Utah. I think this is going to be a really close series. I'm excited to give you my prediction, but I just want to continue my point on the goaltending quickly. I really do think it comes down to that. And I know we cop out sometimes in these playoff predictions, and I try to avoid putting X factors in the cage, but I really do think Carter Hart can be an X factor for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he is one that I put there because I put a slash. Mark Stone is a game changer. Mark Stone is a gamer. He is a clutch performer, and he gets it done. He's now a winner as well. The Utah Mammoth have a lot of things. They do not have that steadying veteran grizzly presence that Mark Stone brings to the table. He's battle-tested. That is one thing the Utah Mammoth, I would say, Steele, don't have going in their favor, because otherwise, you said it so nicely. Goaltending, check. Blue line, bolstered with Weegar, check. And a forward group that has a ton of sexy young forwards, fantasy or otherwise. You're on mute, brother.
At least once a week, but that really is the case here. When you look at the experience that the Vegas Golden Knights have compared to Utah, it just doesn't match accordingly. The Utah Mammoth, this is a lot of their players' first time in the postseason or the second time in 6 years. You have to go back to 2019, 2020 when the Arizona Coyotes made the postseason, I believe, and that was Clayton Keller's first time in the playoffs. Lost in crowd. A lot of those guys just aren't familiar with the atmosphere yet. They're gonna get they're gonna find out real quick in game 1 against the Vegas Golden Knights how it goes. Even regardless of that, I still back the Utah Mammoth going to that. So that again leads to my prediction. But X factor for me on the Vegas Golden Knights side of things, for me it has to be the blue line. And I'm specifically looking at Noah Hannafin or Shea Theodore. Like I mentioned, there's no more Alex Pietrangelo this year. They've struggled on the back end. Rasmus Andersson hasn't quite fit in exactly the way I think we all expected him to since that trade at the deadline. It's been a below average season for both Theodore and Hannafin. And again, the physicality is going to go up a few notches here. So Shea Theodore can't get by with only 2 hits in 82 games. He's got to start throwing his weight around. For a 6'2", 215, 220-pound defenseman, you got to be a lot stronger than that. So they got to provide some offensive touch. But a goaltender is only as good as their blue line, and they have to be a lot better. I know Carter Hart, like you mentioned with those numbers in the last month, has been good, but the goaltending from whether it's Hart or Adin Hill, it's only as good as the people in front of him. So the blue line, specifically Theodore and Hannafin, need to be better.
At the end of the day, too, the Rasmus Andersson move, like, they bolstered their blue line as well. It didn't really work out fantasy-wise. It kind of fizzled off, really didn't produce too much.
Yeah.
However, this is now when that season changes to the postseason. A guy like Rasmus Andersson back there, who you can rely on at least defensively, he should be a sound kind of shot blocking guy who can get in front of the net. This is his time to really prove his value. Could be a bit of a difference maker. Not important enough to make an X factor, but that's how I'm looking at that. Steele quickly. X factor on the other side. I was looking at this Mammoth lineup. Super talented, so young. You look at a guy in J.J. Peterka on the third line in any other situation, or like 8 out of 10 teams, J.J. Peterka's for sure in the top 6, not playing with Alex Kerfoot on the third line. However, he gets a little bit of power play 2 time, I believe. He also is a player that's like a solid all-day 25 to 30 goal scorer with upside. I still think this player's best seasons are to come. I think he can be an X factor. Sure, Keller, Guenther, all of those obvious ones would be good too. I think someone from this forward group, call him a depth piece if you want. I think he can be more important and better than that. J.J. Peterka for me, I think that's a sneaky X factor steal. If he rolls along with the big guns, that's a lot for Vegas to handle.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're definitely going to need some depth scoring here. The bottom 6 is going to have to provide some sort of contribution in this first round series. I'll let you know who my Utah Mammoth X factor is when we come back after the break.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait to dive into this Minnesota Wild Dallas Stars situation. Fantasy Angles bets, you guys know what it is here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're showing love to Indeed. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking, inbox overflowing, and that one position you have is still sitting open. The pressure's on. What you need, it's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. They help you reach more people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. You're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You're finding them. Spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Right now, listeners of our show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support the show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Little shout out to our friends from 5 Hour Energy. Today's show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You got a sweet tooth like we do here on the show. The 5 Hour Energy cotton candy flavor brings the nostalgia back in a whole new way. That's why the classic cotton candy taste you remember, with that caffeine boost and zero sugar, it is a quick and easy solution. Bring it right now with the sweetness. Cotton candy 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon.
And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat on Discord with Flip and I and other listeners of the show. You can tap the link in the show notes below or go to lockedonfantasyhockey.supercast.com to learn more. Once again, later in this episode, we're going to bring up and show you the NHL playoff bracket challenge we got going. I'll show you and break down my entire bracket there. But let's get to the final matchup that we got to break down. The Dallas Stars, the Minnesota Wild. This is my all-time favorite first-round matchup right now. You know what it is. Minnesota Wild fan, super excited. Obviously, I got to cheer for somebody because Toronto let us down this season. I'm back in the Minnesota Wild. So when you look at the regular season series, both teams.
What about the end of the previous series? I didn't get our predictions and our bets for Utah.
Right.
My bad. I didn't want to get too into it. I know you're fired up, but let's not forget. I want to finish off that Mammoth Knights. Okay,
yes,
over to you for the Mammoth Knights.
X factor for the Utah Mammoth. Again, you said it was obvious, but I'm going to it. For me, it's Dylan Guenther. This guy needs to be the top dog here. And Clayton Keller in the one postseason he's been in actually had really good success. I believe he had 7 points in that first round matchup back 6 years ago. But Dylan Guenther, at his age, having 40 goals on the season, top 15 in goal scoring this year, he's got to be the run and gun shooter for this squad. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, JJ Peterka, Logan Cooley, they all got this skill. We all know what they are capable of. Dylan Guenther's got to just have that confidence to shoot the puck at will and create in the offensive zone like we've seen him do all season long. So might be the obvious choice, but I'm going with Dylan Guenther as the X factor here. My prediction for the series, I've got the Utah Mammoth in 6.
That is a spicy take, and I don't think it's bold or like ill-placed or anything. This was a tough one for me, Steele, and the same with that Stars Wild series you're so fired up about. I was having trouble. I was going back and forth, and I think that means we're in for 2 really good series. I think regardless of the bets that you like in both, taking the over in terms of games or even predicting exactly 7 games, I could see it in both. I'm going to go Knights in 6, and only because of this. We haven't mentioned his name yet, and it's the best player in the series in Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel plays that kind of north-south game where he works it from blue line to blue line, comes in off that post, that little toe drag shot. Very hard to stop that player, Steele. You know, we're here on this show, big fans of this guy fantasy-wise. I think he's got another opportunity to really establish himself as one of the best players of this generation with another cup and a big, important run. Jack Eichel could be a game changer here. So I'm going to lean on that. That happens. Knights in 6. I really do also like Jack Eichel goal total in the series. 3+ goals for Jack. I'm going Jack Eichel all day on this one, Steele, because I really do think what you said about the Mammoth is accurate. If they don't get a big performance from their best player, I think this young Mammoth team is ready to roll.
That is what I am hoping for in this first round matchup. I'm also hoping for a Minnesota Wild dub in the first round. I am fired up for this one. You know me.
There you go.
Big Kirill, the Thrill, Kaprizov, Stan over here, and I'm so excited for game 1 to take action later today. Like I was breaking down a little bit earlier, regular season series, both teams took 2 apiece in the 4 games they played. But I mentioned this weeks ago that in one of their final games, if not the final game of the season, when they played each other, we got a little bit of a first round preview in that one about a week and a half ago. Home ice advantage is super important, specifically for this matchup. They haven't, the Minnesota Wild haven't won on the road in the first round against the Dallas Stars. They haven't won on the road as a road team, and they haven't done that at all this season. Neither of the Dallas Stars, actually. They've both won at home. The 2 wins they got were both at home. The 2 losses they had were obviously on the road. Home ice advantage is super important in this one, but I think the Minnesota Wild find a way. So that alludes once again to my prediction. But when you look at special teams, Wild and the Stars have the 2nd and 3rd ranked power plays. You get to the penalty kill, 13th and 16th ranked penalty kill. These teams are very even, very, very well matched in this first round series. I'm really looking forward to this one getting underway later today, like I said. So I'll get straight into my X factors. And for me, the best guys have to be the best guys. So Minnesota Wild, it has to be Kirill Kaprizov. You said this a couple of days ago as well. It needs to be your superstar taking the reins and putting this team in the throwing this team in the right direction and getting them off to a great start. So I look at Kaprizov, obviously Boldy in that mix as well. Quinn Hughes on the back end. Kaprizov needs to be my X factor. And again, kind of just, I think this is a good opportunity for him to establish himself as one of the best hockey players in the game as well. On the other end, it's not Mikko Rantanen. It's not Jason Robertson. It's my boy, Wyatt Johnston. He is always an X factor. Yeah. He is always coming up in the clutch. He's always in the right spot at the right time. And he is a power play savant. He is deadly on the man advantage. Yes, so Wyatt Johnston, you look at his numbers this season as well as over the last couple of years in the playoffs. He excels. He doesn't shy away from the spotlight. He gets the job done, and he comes up big in the clutch, like I said. So best guys have to be your best players out there, and it's Kirill Kaprizov and Wyatt Johnston for me.
Absolutely, Steele. Wyatt Johnston has really started to firmly establish himself in the conversation of, borderline like a top 15 fantasy option. Out of nowhere as a kid, and I don't mean out of nowhere like the past couple of years we've been on him in the fantasy game, but this wasn't like a very top heralded draft pick or anything like that you heard coming up in the ranks. So when you're talking about him and an ability to be a game changer in the postseason, and that's why I was just pulling up his numbers here, already he's got 50 plus NHL postseason games under his belt already, Steele, and in those 6 game-winning goals. He's been clutch already. He's been scoring goals in big moments, and they're going to need that because for me in this series, it comes very clearly down to health. Roope Hintz is hurt. Miro Heiskanen is hurt. Depth guys that are important. Radek Faksa is hurt. These are really important injuries, and obviously the most important one is Miro Heiskanen. I've been doing some reading today. It's looking like game time decision. But he just, fantasy aside for a second, he eats so many minutes. He's so important to the success of this team that right there, if you're a Minnesota fan, you see him out of the lineup in game 1, you are for sure fist pumping. You don't want a guy to get hurt, of course, but that's just so key to their success. So I throw that out there as a big angle that I'm looking at in this series, Steele. And when you're talking about X factors, it was Wyatt Johnston for the Dallas Stars. And I'll tell you about my Minnesota Wild X factor and my bets right after the break.
When we come back as well, we'll break down the NHL playoff bracket challenge. I'll show you my bracket going into the postseason. Again, big prize on the line. But first, this episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? I've definitely been there myself. You're not alone. Keep track of subscriptions, spending, and bills. They can all get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. So how does Rocket Money help you keep track of your finances? It tracks all your subscriptions in one spot and can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few clicks. It automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clear picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We hope everyone out there is fired up for Game 1 action of the Stanley Cup playoffs, just like Flip and I are. Flip, X Factor for the Minnesota Wild. Get to our predictions, and then we'll get to the NHL Playoff Bracket Challenge.
I think, since we've touched so much on it, goaltending, you look at Philip Gustafsson in his career, 11 games started, .917 save percentage. he's actually been really good. The teams kind of let him down because a 4-6-0 record in those games, you would say in the postseason, if your goalie's giving you almost a .920 save percentage, you would think maybe his record is a little bit better. So now reinforcements, Quinn Hughes, maybe this is a different story. X factor, Joel Eriksson Ek, two-way player, difference maker with physicality, can chip in with his offense. I think he can be a game changer because, yeah, you look at Matt Boldy. I almost put him there because he is so good and he will need to do that. I think Joel Eriksson Ek has a really good opportunity to impact this series. We've talked all about him as a little bit of a fantasy darling who really covers our peripheral categories in our banger leagues well. I think he is going to have a big series for the Minnesota Wild. I would take a look at his props as well. I was having trouble pulling those up, but I would definitely be looking at this player to set the tone and eat some major minutes in the top six for this group that he's done basically the last few seasons, aside from being injured.
Funny enough, it won't be Philip Gustafsson getting game one. It will be Jesper Wallstedt getting the nod. They're throwing the rookie into the Sharks here, but he can handle himself. He's done it all season long. Jesper Wallstedt will be game one starter for the Minnesota Wild. Again, looking forward to that one. Prediction on my end.
Yep.
Wild. In 7 games, baby. Let's go, Mini. Let's go, Mini.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be close, right? And that's why I absolutely love a bet here of the series to go 7 games. And I was pulling that up. FanDuel, NHL odds. I'll get it up. But I really do think this is going to be a close series. And if Miro Heiskanen is out, I changed my prediction because that's how important he is. And I know that's a cop-out, but I'm going to say Stars in 7. This has bloodbath written all over it. This also has Steele. This is a time of year you're sprinkling some wagers. Odds on games to go to OT, really good value. You could see this series at least At least 2 or 3 are going to go to overtime. So sprinkle that in there. Take the series to go 7 games. My prediction is Dallas in 7. I think it's going to be a good one, Steele. This is probably on paper. I really do. I'm excited for Pittsburgh and Philly, but I think Dallas is out west the toast of the series in terms of what I'm excited to see.
Absolutely it is. We know what these teams are capable of. You look at the other matchups, like I said, Oilers and Ducks, we don't have real big expectations on what we're going to see in the first round. Avalanche are going to walk all over the Kings, and then Mammoth and Golden Knights, that one could be a spicy one too, but it's definitely the Wild and Stars. We're getting after it here, which brings us to our NHL playoff bracket challenge. So if you haven't already, you can go on our Twitter account, our X account. It's pinned at the very top. You can click the link and join. Free entry. There is a grand prize for the top team at the end of the playoffs.
It's right here,
once
Steele.
again,
I have it right
try
here.
to get it down. I know you'll be able to sign up, I believe, a day or 2 after the playoffs start. So if you still want to, you still can. But yeah, free entry, prize at the end for the top team in this league. But here's my bracket flip. This is the one that we've been talking about, breaking down all these series. So I've got the Avalanche, the Wild, the Mammoth, and the Oilers in the first round, and then on the Eastern Conference, Bruins, Lightning, Hurricanes, and Penguins. So I think this is where maybe it gets a little bit unorthodox. Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to have the Mammoth. I assume a lot of people aren't going to have the Wild over the Stars. I've seen a lot of upset in the first round when it comes to the Hurricanes and Senators. I know a lot of people are backing the Senators and the Canadians too. But you get into the semis and the finals for both these conferences. I have the Wild and the Mammoth in the Western Conference Final, and then I have the Lightning and the Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final with a Stanley Cup Finals matchup of the Minnesota Wild and the Carolina Hurricanes.
Steele, I love this at this time of year because I think we could probably sit here for a whole other episode and go back and forth, even though we just broke this all down series by series, because this is awesome, right? This time of year. Look, getting away from this Colorado Avalanche team as the heavy favorites, I think them going toe-to-toe with the Minnesota Wild would be an amazing series. Me coming on here and just saying Dallas takes out Minnesota in the first round, I don't see the Minnesota Wild as a Stanley Cup champion personally. I look to a Colorado Avalanche or the Dallas Stars definitely taking them out. It's got to be Colorado as my cup pick. I haven't filled out my bracket completely. I would also say this, though.
Get on it, boy.
Let's not forget about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That's all I got to say.
No, they're already in my rear view mirror. I forgot about them.
That's absolutely fine. All I got to say is Connor McDavid's fixing to do something special once again. And if he can even get, I don't know, half of what Connor Ingram was been doing over the last couple of weeks in the postseason, that might be enough to, I don't know about win, but it's going to be enough to at least take out a few teams in the first and second round. So let's not forget about the Edmonton Oilers, because that path to the Cup, through Anaheim and then through Vegas or Utah, definitely a lot easier than what Minnesota's working with.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
I'll just throw that caveat out there. I'm going to get my bracket in before today's puck drop. That's my bad for slipping, but I'm excited for this postseason puck.
That's what I was going to say next was, if the Minnesota Wild, again, somehow win the Stanley Cup this season, and I do believe they can, and they are a Stanley Cup championship team, if they do, it might go down as one of the greatest Stanley Cup runs in history, because just looking at how hard their path to the championship round is, they got to go against the Dallas Stars, the second best team in the league. Then they got to go up potentially against the top team if they move on. And then in the Western Conference Finals, it's either the Golden Knights, Oilers, and then I still believe it could be the Mammoth. But Oilers in Vegas are tough, and then you got to go up against someone from the Eastern Conference who is the best team in that conference as well. They have the toughest path to a Stanley Cup championship, and I believe they can do it this season. We obviously getting it down here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Those are the breakdowns, the previews, the best bets, and the NHL Playoff Bracket Challenge. Once again, we already got 25 members flipped, so it's up there. We're getting some good numbers. We want to see potentially 30, 35. Ooh, that is a nice little prize right there. Claude Giroux signed Philadelphia Flyers puck. Some memorabilia for you out there.
Official,
again, grand prize,
it's certified,
team.
Legit.
It's absolutely legit here on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for making it the Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Hit that subscribe button, the follow button, so you get all of the latest episodes. Go join the NHL Playoff Bracket Challenge. You can find the link, you can find the link pinned to our Twitter account. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow for some more playoff action here on Locked On Fantasy Hockey.
Peace.